Yo guys, welcome back. Today we'll be going over some Nell builds. I know a lot of you are probably finishing with crafting her today, so I wanted to get the builds I have been working on out. We'll be doing a mobbing build that is pretty good in Purge, and then a skill bossing build for the Abyss Colossus, where she is very good and a great descendant to farm the Abyss Colossus with, so you can get your mats from ETA. Overall, as I stated in the video before the season started, Nell is pretty mid. Her animations are long and clunky. Her skills have horrible AoE effects, lacking splash damage, and her fourth has some of the worst quality of life I've seen in the game in some time. When I cast it, simply disappears into the ether, or if there's any objects in the way, the objects simply eat the ability completely. All this was done live on Twitch. We're in the middle of a subathon. There are currently Twitch drops for TFD as well, so come stop by, hang out. Link is in the description. With that out of the way, let's get into it. So let me go over what we're going to be doing here in the fight. You want to make sure you're scanning, but do not scan too much, because if you scan again and you miss, it's going to take that buff off. So you want to make sure it's on. Before you do anything, you want to shoot, get a crit for hyper focus. Then you're going to be spamming your 1 until you get all the custom resource, and then her 4, simply rinse and repeat, and keep making sure that the buff from this scan is up. But do not overscan, like I said, because it will take it off. And just check every 15 seconds. Try to proc hyper focus again if you can. It's very not easy to do, but it's doable. And also understand, as you just watched, sometimes when you use your 4, it'll just miss because it doesn't track, and the AoE damage on it is not very big. So first we'll get into the build for the Abyss Colossus. We are going to be using Shattered Heart. So this is a crit build. We are focused on cooldown a lot here. So you're gonna have your 2 focus mods, your Nimble Fingers with MP conversion, and then our 4 crit mods. And then we're using Strong Mentality for skill cost, a lot of skill spamming, and then hyper focus, which we're gonna proc with our Secret Garden as much as we can. Not always the easiest to maintain. Just look at the clock, and every time you see around 15 seconds, shoot your Secret Gardener a little bit. You're also getting the inversion buff from the focus rounds with Secret Garden, so you want to make sure you are 100% shooting that before you do anything in the fight. And then we're using Death by 1,000 Cuts for the little meteor it shoots down. It is pretty good, nothing crazy, doesn't make or break the build, but it definitely adds damage. For our reactor, we have a non-attribute tech. Make sure you have it mounted to your tactical rifle. I did not for about 2 hours of farming. I still managed to make it in the top 10. And once I mounted it, we got to 2nd place in the leaderboard. You do want cooldown and Colossus for this, and you're going to want the Enlightened Mage set. Make sure you roll your HP as your cores. Make sure you have all the stats matching as well. And I also rolled Electric Resistance. This way we can just stay alive throughout the fight, not have to worry about getting dropped, because once you get dropped in this fight, you're pretty much not getting back up. Now for our RK tuning, we have come into enhanced skill power. We are getting the cooldown, we're getting the crit damage over here, and then we decided to go with final preparations. Moving into our inversion reinforcement, we're using RK circulation tactic for the cooldown we can get, mostly for our 4th ability. Then we're using toxic focus rounds, and this is going to help us proc enhanced focus rounds, which is very necessary. It's a great debuff. And then we have selective neurostimulation for some MP economy. Now we do have our Secret Garden. The build doesn't have to be like this. Make sure you have your sprint cores. That's going to be the most important thing here. I will show the build. The other important thing here is that you have crit, because you want to crit to proc hyper focus. So try to put as much crit rate as you can on it. As you can see, my Secret Garden is at 90% critical hit rate with that setup. Now I'll go over the mobbing build that I'm using for her, and this is mostly for Purge. There are some tweaks you can do here if you want to do 400%. Mostly when I was running 400% and trying to level her, I found that just spamming her 2 over and over was probably the best bet. The splash damage on Breach Spike is just not good. If you get a small pack of mobs, you could take them out, but big packs, you're not doing much. And then the cast speed on this is just atrocious. The splash damage is atrocious. It doesn't track either. So the best thing I was doing when farming 400% was just spamming this. But in Purge, I was using 2, 3, make sure you're scanning, and make sure you're using her 1, and you can use her 4. In my purge runs, I was able to take out Greg with no problem without using Last Dagger, just simply using skills. Once again, we're in Shattered Heart. This is pretty much the same setup here. We have switched out 2 mods, so we're using Skill Expansion and Decimator. If you are running 400%, I would simply take out Decimator and just add the extra range with Amplification Control. And once again, death by 1,000 cuts we're using. Now for our reactor, about the same reactor, besides instead of Colossus now, we have critical hit damage. Make sure you have your weapon mounted, very important. And I go with the 2-piece Plague, 2-piece Hunter. I like the cooldown. I like being able to spam her 1 as much as possible, and that's going to allow you to do this. You can use Slayer Set. When I was using Slayer Set in Purge, I was running at an MP very often. Wasn't a fan of it. Plus, also very squishy, because that's going to put you around 6k HP. And in Purge, sometimes that just doesn't cut it, especially when she's not able to really hide behind anything when she's fighting. So I would go with this setup if you want to stay alive. Now for our RK tuning, we are going into enhanced skill power. We are taking our cooldown node, and then for our mutant cell, we're going to be going with defense neutralization. And for your inversion reinforcement, focus boost for the skill cost, selective neurostimulation for the MP gain, and then I do still have chill focus rounds on, just in case you want to use your dagger and kill Greg. Dagger, of course, just absolutely rips Greg. Now for our weapons, we are using Peacemaker for the non-attribute damage buff, and also the triple sprint speed cores. Your build is not really going to matter here, just put your triple sprint speed cores on, and then we're using the dagger we would normally be using in Purge. Nothing has changed with this. So as far as what you're going to be doing in something like Purge, once again, make sure you're scanning, make sure you're putting your 1 down, mostly for the big packs is where you're going to be wanting to do this, and then spam your first ability, and then use your 4 if possible. I would try to play behind cover as much as possible. She is pretty squishy. She gets dropped pretty easily, especially when the fire meatballs hit her. And like I was saying, as far as like general mobbing with her, you're just gonna want to do this. It's gonna give her the most radius and probably the most uptime on her damage. Plus, you also get the speed boost from using your your second ability twice. And that covers everything for this Nell build guide. Any questions or suggestions about the builds, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe is appreciated. Thanks, guys. Peace.